I hope the concepts explained in part 1 and part 2 of this particular lecture are clear to you, and I also hope that you are moving on to this particular video only after practicing the previous concepts. Okay, if you're just a beginner, try to practice the previous concepts, otherwise you won't be able to understand a thing in this particular video. Okay, alright, now let's look at the concept of methods and functions. So methods are basically, you can say, functions specific to an object in Python. So let's say objects like list, strings, etc. We have already seen that there were various methods like sort, reverse, etc. and we were using them to perform certain actions. So those functionalities were called methods. Functions, on the other hand, are similar to methods. What they do is basically they will allow you to write your code in a more clean and efficient manner. So let's say you want to use a particular code at different places in your entire script. So what you're going to do is, instead of writing the same code again and again, you can simply create a function for that code, and you can call that function at multiple places. That way you'll not only write your code in a more clean and efficient manner, you'll also increase the, you can say, execution efficiencies, and your code will appear more clean, better, and that is kind of like a best practice. So functions will allow you to do almost everything, a lot of things, and it's a very interesting concept. It will allow you to write complex logics, create complex programs, etc. Okay, now let's look at the structure of a function. So in function, we start with the help of a keyword def, then we start with the help of we start with the name of this particular function. The name can be anything according to the program you're writing. If you're writing, you create your even number, list of even number, whatever, just try to name accordingly. Okay, and then we use this parenthesis here, and we enter the name of the arguments, whatever arguments you are expecting user to enter. Then we use this colon, and this will give you indentation here. After that, we use this docstring. Docstring will actually allow you to describe what that function is all about. So let's say you want to share your code to someone else, then you can add docstring to it, that this particular function does this particular thing, this particular function calculates list of even numbers, etc. Once you have written a docstring, after that you can proceed to writing your logic here. You can your code. After that, what you can do is you can simply either return or print your result. So return or print is nothing, but it will actually give you a functionality to basically, you can say, return a value, return an output. Okay, we'll talk about the return and print very soon. Now let's create a simple function here. So we are creating a simple function, a print function, to print your name and how are you. So here we have used def keyword, function name, we are entering this particular argument here. Okay, name, this can be anything here. Then we are using this, and then print f hello name, how are you. Okay, I hope you are familiar with this formatting. Then we are calling this function here print name, and instead of this name over here, what we are doing is we are expecting user to enter a particular value there for that particular argument. So the user entered Alex, so what the output will be, it will give you the output, hello Alex, how are you. Cool. So this way what you can do is you can create your own function, expect user to enter certain arguments, and based on the argument you will be able to give an output. Also notice that we haven't defined whether name is string or integer, but what we are doing is we are entering Alex here. Alex is in string. Even if you are entering a number here, the output will be like hello 1 2 whatever number you are entering, how are you. Because in Python we don't have the concept of specifying like this particular argument should be of a particular data type. So try to keep this point in mind, because when you are creating a real world program, you need to ensure that the user is actually entering or actually putting the input there in such a manner so that it aligns with the code that you have written. Otherwise it will result in an error. Now notice here, if you are not using the parenthesis, this close brackets, okay, it will give you just simply this output. It won't execute the function. So parenthesis is actually used to execute the function. So if you are skipping the parenthesis, you will not be getting any output. Function won't be executed. Now let's see the difference between return and print statement. Print keyword, sorry. So see, we have created this function sum1, and here we are using return keyword, and it is giving you the output of sum of two numbers. Here we are using print keyword, and here it is giving the output of two numbers. The name of the functions are different. Sum2 is used for print, sum1 is used for return. Now here sum1 function, we are giving two arguments 1 2, the output is 3. Here again it is print function, here we are again entering 1 and 2, the output is 3. Okay, now what happens is, when you are saving that particular result to a variable, okay, here we have saved the return result with a variable return result. Okay, here print result is saved here for the second function, that is print function. Now what's happening here is, when you are calling that particular variable later on, this is not giving any output here. We are not getting 3, but what we have done here is, we have saved the function's output to print result. That means this function output is not being saved to the print result, and this function belongs to the print one. That means when we are using print keyword, the function output won't be saved anywhere. It won't allow you to save the output. Okay, but when you are using return in your function, what it will allow you to save your output to this particular variable or any variable, and then you can call that variable later on, and the output will be this. Here we are calling return result, the output is this. That means the return keyword will allow you to save your answer or your output somewhere, and you can assign it to a particular variable, and that particular variable will carry that particular output. If you check the type of the print and result, you can see the type of print is on type of result is int. That means if you are checking the type of these two variables. Here is another example of a function. Check if the number is odd in the list and return them all. So here what you have done is, you are simply creating a function check odd. You are expecting user to enter a list, okay, list to be checked. Then what you have done is, you have created an empty list here, and then you have created your logic here, and then you have returned your list, final list. Okay, so for num in num list, if num is not equal to 0, what you are doing is, you are simply appending it. That means it will go through each element of that particular list. It will see if the number is divisible by 2 or not. If the number is not divisible by 2, it will append it to that particular empty list, and it will give user this output here. Okay, so let's say user entered this particular list, then the logic will be performed using this particular logic, and the output will come as 1357. So that way you will be able to write your own code, your own logic, and create your own program, complex programs. Now let's look at the concept of lambda expressions. So lambda expression basically allows you to write a function in one line. So let's say if you have simple functions, what you can do is, you can simply use lambda expression to write them in one line. So here let's say this function calculates the square of a particular number. We can write the function in this format. Okay, we can also write it in one line. Now if you want to convert it into lambda format, what you can do is, you can simply define the function name here, assign it to the lambda function. So lambda function is written in this format: lambda argument name equal to whatever logic you have here. Okay, so this logic here can be used, and this lambda keyword is used to create the lambda expression. So what we are doing is, we are getting rid of this def etc. Okay, we are getting rid of return keyword, and what we are simply doing is, we are simply creating the function name and then this lambda. Simply we are using basic just keyword and basic argument and a function name, just that's it. Okay, now let's understand it with the help of another example. So see, here we have num list, this is the list. Okay, and what we are doing is, we are simply creating a function lambda expression here we have, that is giving us the output square of the numbers in this particular list. Okay, now what's happened is, like when you are doing this, you can also use some pre-built methods like map and filter. What map does is, map will actually map out this lambda expression on each element of this particular sequence, this particular list. This can be any sequence. So map will allow you to map out that particular lambda function on each element of that list. Okay, so this lambda function will be executed on each element of that particular list, and the output will be given in this format. Okay, the output will become in this format only if you are using this list here. Again, the filter works on those lambda expressions, those functions which give you output in true or false format. So num is whether divisible by 2 or not. So if such kind of functions are there, what you can do is you can simply use filter method, and this lambda expression will be applied to that particular type of sequence. So this function should be in Boolean format, the output should be in Boolean format, and then you can use filter method to give the output, and this particular lambda expression will be applied to each element of that particular list. Now let's look at the concept of variable scope in Python. So what we are doing here is we are creating a variable here x, but this variable is within the function only. Okay, so this variable is known as local scope. The scope of this variable, is known as local scope. That means this variable is only accessible by functions or things inside this particular function. It won't be accessible outside it. Okay, so you cannot use this particular variable outside this particular function. A variable created inside a function belongs to that local scope of that function and can only be used inside that function. It can't be used outside. Okay, and you can also use it within the functions. If there is another function within a function, then that variable can also be used there. Okay, so this is called inclusive function locals. Variable x is not available outside the function, but it is available for any function inside that function. That means this x defined here can be accessible by any function within that function, but this x is not accessible outside that function. So let's say you wrote this function here, and after that you are doing something x plus x or something. In that case, you can't access the function, access the variable here, because this variable is not defined anywhere else outside the function. Okay, so try to understand the concept of the local scope and this including function locals. Now we also have the concept of global scope. Global scope means when a variable is defined outside anything, outside everything, this variable can be used anywhere. So this function here can access the variable here x, and if you are defining this x variable somewhere in the function, it can't be accessible outside. Okay, that means here you can see the value of x is same at both the places. Inside the function and outside the function, the value is same. That means a variable can be defined outside and can be accessible by everything else inside that particular code. And if it is defined anywhere somewhere inside a function, it won't be accessible outside. Now there are some inbuilt variables as well, like length, etc. Okay, now also you can define the same variable outside, and you can define the variable with the same name inside that particular a different function, and you can make like two different variables. Okay, two separate variables, one available in the global scope outside of the function and one available in the local scope inside the functions. Okay, so inside the function the value of x will be treated as 200 only, but outside the function we have 300. Cool. So this is also a way, like if you want a different value, that you can define inside the function. Now let's see the concept of global keyword. So when you are creating a variable inside a function, the variable is only accessible inside the function, but if you want to use that particular variable outside the function, all you have to do is you have to use the keyword global and then write the variable name and then assign the variable certain value. Then what you can do is you can simply access the variable outside this function. Okay, the value will be 300 because we have defined 300 inside and made this variable global. Also global is used to change the value. Okay, so let's say outside the function we have the value x equal to 300, but inside the function we use global keyword x and x equal to 200. Now what it will do, it will simply change the value of global variable. So globally it was 300, but when we use this global keyword, now the value is x equal to 200. And when you are accessing the value later on in your code, value of the x, the value will be 200. That means using global keyword we can change the value of the global variable. Okay, so from 300 we change it to 200. Now let's look at the concept of args and covargs. So keyword arguments and these arguments. So what happens is, whenever you are executing any function, let's say if you want to allow user to enter various arguments, so let's say there are not just one or two arguments, there are multiple arguments. So in that case what you can do is you can simply use arg. Like arg is written something like this, star and then args. This name can be anything, it is just convention that we use args. This can be anything. So what you can do is you can simply write this function here and args. Then you can write your function here, return sum args plus 5. What it will do is it will allow user to enter a limited number of arguments, and then it will give you the output by executing this particular code. So let's say this can be written in this manner, like you entered argument 1, argument 2, argument 3, argument 4, argument 5, argument 6, and then you are writing your code. But this is kind of like tedious. So instead of doing that, what you can do is you can simply enter this particular star args. This can be any name, but still use args. Okay, now what it will do, it will simply reduce your this work. Like you don't have to enter too many arguments here, and user can simply enter the argument and it will give you the output. So like user can enter a limited number of arguments. So in the same manner we have the concept of keyword arguments. Keyword arguments are like related to strings. So let's say the same manner, this is you use double star and then kwargs. So this again, this is just used by convention. You can use any word here, but still use kwargs only. And when you are creating a function, you can simply enter this kwargs and write your code logic. What it will do is you can simply, at the time of calling the function, you can simply write it in this manner. Keyword arguments book equal to outliers. Okay, so keyword arguments are written in this format, and the output will be given to you. Whenever you are using args and kwargs at the same time, all you have to do is use args first, then kwargs. So that means arguments, this thing should come first, then this should come next. Okay, so whenever you are writing any function, try to use args first, then kwargs. So here let's say we are creating a function that will print the list of kwargs and args. So we are printing args and kwargs, and then we are writing this function, and this particular user is entering the list of their arguments and keyword arguments. So the arguments are book t, and the keyword arguments are name equal to Alex is equal to 20. Okay, the output here is in this format. So that means these keyword arguments are written only after the arguments, these arguments, and then these keyword arguments are coming. Okay, if you are not doing that, it will result in syntax error. So just try to keep that thing in mind. Now let's look at the concept of object-oriented programming. So object-oriented programming will allow us to create our own objects. So you must have seen like there are so many types of objects in Python, like strings, lists, etc. Now what you can also do is you can create your own object in Python. Okay, if you want to create like let's say object for mathematics or object for books or any real world concept that you can think of, you can create a object related to that particular thing. So in Python, let's say we have integer, list, tuple, dictionary. These are some inbuilt classes, and they have their own classes. Their class name is int, list, tuple, dictionary, etc. You can simply figure out by typing this particular code, and you can create your own class. Now let's see how we can do that, and let's look at the basic definitions that we have. With the help of class, you can create user defined objects. An instance is a specific object created from a particular class. An attribute is a characteristics of an object. A method is an operation we can perform with the object. Okay, so I guess we have seen this pattern everywhere when dealing with strings and lists. We have already seen these concepts. Okay, now let's understand them one by one, how we can create and what are their significance when we're talking about the class. So how we can create a class? A class is created with the help of this keyword class, and then we write our class name. The class name starts with a capital letter and then this colon. After that you write your code here. Here we are just passing it, and then we are creating an instance of that particular class. So here b equal to books, we are calling that class here. You can notice this is capital letter only. This is not a function, but this is just an instance of that particular class. Instance means b is an instance here. That means we are kind of creating this class, and b is being created here. Okay, so this thing is called instance. Now the object that we are going to create will have some features, some characteristics. Okay, let's say you want to create an object for book, so book will have some characteristics like price, book name, author, etc. So to create attributes, what we do is we use this def, and then we use this name init. Okay, double score init, then double underscore, sorry, and then we use this bracket and this self keyword. Okay, self keyword is must. After that we write these parameters name, price, book name, author. So these are the attributes of that particular class. So let's say we created a class name book here. These things will be the attributes of that particular class. These things will tell you that what are the attributes, what are the characteristics of that particular class. Now what we do is we create attributes name. Okay, these are basically the parameters. We haven't yet created the attributes, we create attribute after that. Okay, so these are the attributes name. So this self dot price, this is the attribute name. Okay, and this is basically the parameter that we have used here, these names. Okay, these attributes name can be anything. This should not be equal to price. By convention, what we do at all places, we use the same name, but here you can enter anything, my price, book price, anything. This thing is called attribute name, and these things will be the attribute, the characteristics of that particular object. I can understand this may sound confusing to beginners, but still, like you can say that this is attribute name. Okay, this is the attribute. Okay, and these are just the parameters that we have entered here, the arguments. Okay, by convention, what we do, we keep the names same everywhere so that we don't get confused. If you're just a beginner, keep in mind that just try to use the same name everywhere. So this is how you can create the attributes. Self dot any attribute name, self dot the attribute name, and then what you can do is, once you are creating an instance of this particular class, my book equal to books, price, okay, price equal to 4000, book name equal to human compatible, author is Stuart Russell. Okay, now when you are checking the attribute for each book, what you have to do is you simply have to write your variable that you have assigned the class to the instance dot price. If you click price, you will get this output. When you are creating this instance book name, when you're creating this attribute name book name, you can simply create dot book name. You don't have to use this bracket here because attributes do not have this parenthesis. Okay, they are not methods, so you simply have to use it without the parenthesis, and you are getting the output here. Then again this author here. Okay, so attributes are simply just the characteristics that will tell you this book has this and this and this thing. Okay, now there is a concept of class object attributes. That means you can globally define that there is an attribute that is applicable to everything. Okay, to the entire you can say instance of that particular class. Okay, so you can simply write an entire a class object attribute here. Let's say the genre of the particular book is non-fiction. Okay, so you can simply define it globally here, and if you check mybook.genre, if you check on an instance of that particular class, the output will be non-fiction here. Okay, that means we do not have to write it down here. We simply are using a global, you can say a class object attribute. This is called class object attribute, and we are getting this particular output here. Now let's look at how we can add certain methods to that particular class. So let's say what we are trying to do is we are simply trying to write some methods to that particular class. Let's say book has certain method, prologue or acknowledgement. So let's say if you're using prologue function, it will give you some different type of output. If you're using acknowledgement function or method, it will give you some different type of output. So here just to create a method, all you have to do is write a function here, just def, simple usual function that we create, and you have to write this self here. And once you have written that, you just have to use this self.bookname. Whenever you are dealing with the attributes, you just have to use this self.bookname here. Okay, and if you're not using that particular attribute, if you're using a predefined argument here, in that case you don't have to use the self keyword here, self.bookname. Okay, because this is directly coming from the argument, from the attribute, sorry, and this thing is defined by you, okay, in your function. So you simply have to write the function in this format, and with the help of this particular function, you can create your methods. So whatever method, whenever you are applying that particular function, then this entire code will be applicable and the output will be executed in that manner. So let's see, you have created this book instance, my book equal to books, price is 4,000, book name human compatible, author Stuart G. Russell. Now what's happening here is, when you are calling this method prologue, notice here we are now using this parenthesis. So when you are executing this method, we are getting I am the prologue of the book human compatible. Okay, because here we have defined this particular code. Also, we haven't entered any separate argument here, that's why it is being executed without entering anything. So this function does not accept any argument here, so this will simply give you an output here, I am prologue of the book human compatible. In the same manner, here we have for the acknowledgement method, sorry, what we are doing is we are adding an argument here, number. Okay, if you are not entering the argument and you are simply calling that particular method, what you will get is you will get an error. So notice here we are not entering any argument. Okay, the error is acknowledgement missing one required positional argument, number. That means we had already defined that there should be another argument called number. Okay, and the moment you enter this particular number, your output will be I am a prologue of the book human compatible and number is 10. So this is how you can create your own methods. Methods are nothing but functions only. All you have to do is write it in that manner, so that you can call it later on your class instances. Now let's see another example. So let's see, we created a class circle, okay, to print the radius, area and circumference of that particular circle. Here this is a class attribute, okay, pi equal to 3.14, because pi is same everywhere in our class. Okay, now here we are creating the instance attributes. Okay, we are using this int, and here we are using self radius equal to 10, default value is 10. So you can do that in this manner as well. You can create a default value here. Now self dot radius equal to radius, self dot area equal to radius into circle dot pi. You can also use self dot pi here, but just to make it appear that it is a class object attribute, we use class dot pi or whatever it is. So because pi is already defined here, class object attribute, so what we do is we simply use that particular this class name dot pi. Okay, now once our attributes are created, we can create our methods here. Methods for getting the circumference. Methods are nothing but the functions, whatever function logic that you want to write in your class. Here the logic is just get the circumference, so it will give you the circumference. Now let's say we created an instance of this particular class, c equal to circle. What we are doing is, now here we are printing the radius of the circle, c dot radius, area of the circle, c dot area, circumference of the circle, c dot circumference. Okay, notice radius and area are the attributes, that's why we are not using the parenthesis here, but circumference is the method here, that's why we are using the parenthesis. Okay, so once you're applying the method, you have to use the parenthesis. When you are just checking for the attributes, you simply have to ignore this parenthesis. The output will be in this manner. Okay, so this is how you can create your own class, and you can just make it more complex. Also, you can enter your own radius if you want, so it's up to you. Whenever whatever function it works as function only, so basically you can enter your own argument. Now let's see what is inheritance. So what happens is, whenever you are creating a class, any object, through object-oriented programming in Python, all you have to do is you simply have to create a parent class, and then you have to create child classes, and you have to inherit certain functionality, certain methods from the parent class. In real world programming, you won't be using the parent class, you simply be creating methods and certain attributes in parent class, and you would be inheriting those methods and attributes in your child class. So let's say we have this parent class name is person. We have created the attributes here, full name, last name. Okay, we have created the attribute name here, first name, last name. Okay, now let's say you are creating this particular method. Okay, print first name and last name. Here you have created an instance of this particular class, you have entered the just first name and last name, and when you are calling this particular method, it is going to print the name John Doe. Now what you want to do is, you want to create a particular child class. So let's say you want the child, you want another class name is student, and you want the student class to inherit all the things, properties and methods of this particular class. Okay, so all you have to do is, you have to enter the previous class name here in this parenthesis, it will inherit all the things. Okay, so when you execute any other the same method related to that particular parent class, it will give you the same output here. Okay, so it's basically it is inheriting all the methods and attributes, properties of that particular parent class. Also, if you want your subclasses to have their own attributes, okay, you can also override those things with the help of this particular diff init and self name. You can add your own things. Okay, also if you want to inherit every other method properties from it, you can use this particular super keyword and use this parenthesis here. After that, you can it will allow you to inherit every method and properties of the parent class. Okay, here you can modify the basic attributes if you want to do that for a child class. Here we have added year, but it is not available in the parent class. That means what we are doing here is, we are simply adding certain properties here, okay, on our own. So for that, we are defining it separately. So here also we are inheriting as well. Notice here, after inheriting, what we are doing is, we are modifying it according to our use, and then also what we are doing is, we are using this particular super. This will simply, what you will do, it will simply inherit all the methods and properties of the parent class. Okay, and here again we have created our attribute name self dot here. So whenever you are writing an instance of this particular class, you can write it in this format, it won't create any error. So that way what you can do is you can simply inherit the properties and methods of a parent class. You can even have a separate methods and properties to your child class, and you can simply work on them. So this is the benefit of using this inheritance. You can also add your own method to your subclasses. So here we have a different method. Unlike the parent class, here we have a different method. Def welcome self, print welcome self dot first name self dot last name to the class of graduation. So when you're creating an instance and calling that method here, this method will give you welcome Mike Olson to the class of 2019. Okay, so this is kind of, you can say, a way in which you can work with inheritance. So you first create a parent class, create certain method and properties to that particular parent class, then you create a subclass, you inherit certain properties and attributes of the parent class that you want to work with. If you want to add some extra attributes and methods, you can do that as well to your subclass. Now let's look at the concept of polymorphism. So it refers to the way in which different object classes can share the same method name, and those methods can be called from the same place even though a variety of different objects might be passed in. Okay, so let's see, we have two classes here, class cat and class dog. What we have here is we have the same method name, and here you can say info is and make sounds are the method name that are same as the class dog. Okay, and here we have the same name, breed, etc. But these two are different classes. Now what we are doing is, with the help of this for loop, we are calling both the classes, and what we are doing is we are not getting any conflict at all. Despite using the same name and despite calling them from the same place, that is for loop, we are not getting any error. So this thing is called polymorphism here. Okay, that means it won't create any error, it will be just acceptable. Okay, so in real world what you can do is, let's say you want to create the concept of class. So in real world what you can do is you can apply the concept of class on problems where you need such functionality where you have to deal with multiple things. So let's say you want to open different type of files. So what you can do is you can simply create a class, add certain methods, and then after that you can create subclasses like a class for Word file, a class for PDF, a class for PPT, a class for something else, and you can add different methods and properties to them separately. But certain methods and properties are common in them that you can put in the parent class. So that way you will be able to work with the concept of classes. Also try to practice questions related with this concept, because this is very important concept, and obviously I haven't explained everything in much detail because this is just a revision lecture, so that's why I'm not covering everything in further details. So just try to practice everything and see if you can solve a few problems, because this is nothing, because once you understand the concept of functions and basic function if else statements, you will be able to create methods as well. And all you need to understand is the concepts related to the attributes, name, class attributes, etc. Okay, so see, we have seen the concepts of print, string, length, etc. These are kind of special methods inbuilt in the Python. Now if you want your class objects to have these methods, okay, then all you have to do is you have to add them separately, because if you check them on your own, these things are not available there in your object. Okay, so you have to add them separately. If you check the len my book, there is nothing len in your book, so it will only give you an error. If you're using string or print method there, these things do not exist there. Okay, so if you are creating this class object book, okay, int self title author page, self title, here we are just creating attribute names. Here we are creating an instance of the class book outliers Malcolm Gladwell 304. Okay, now what you can do is to add these methods to your class, all you have to do is we have to use this thing, string. This string will add a string method to your class object. This len will give you the len for that particular object. This delete will allow you to delete that particular instance of the class. Okay, so here what we are doing is, for the string we are simply returning a string. Okay, for len we are simply just counting the pages. You can do whatever you want, like whatever thing you want to return, you can simply add your own code, your own logic here. For del you can simply write output message or anything to the user that a book has been deleted. So let's say we created an instance of this particular class, my book equal to book outliers Malcolm Gladwell 304. A book is created here. Now when you are applying string method here on your instance, what you are getting is outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Why you are getting this? Because you have written this particular method here. Okay, now when you are writing len is simply counting the number of pages in your class object. Okay, whatever instance that you have entered here, 304. When you are using this del keyword is actually deleting the instance of that particular class. So a book is deleted from the computer memory. So this is the output you are getting. Okay, so in the same manner you can add these special functions to your class if you want to use them, and these special methods will be applicable to the object that you are creating with the help of object-oriented programming or the class. So this is kind of approach you can follow whenever you are writing codes that are kind of complex and that can have different level of division that you can apply to. So just try to think in that manner. Once you work on the problems, you'll understand when to use classes and how you can structure your code accordingly. Now there are different modules and packages in Python. So these are basically, you can say, inbuilt libraries. There are things that have been already done by some other programmers, so that you don't have to start doing everything from scratch. All you have to do is import those libraries in your program and start working on them. So let's say we have the concept of NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib. So you don't want to work on these things right from the beginning. Okay, so there are libraries out there that people have already created, so that your workflow can be simplified and it can move faster. So if you want to work with the library of mathematics, all you have to do is write this keyword import and the library name, and once you have done that, you will be able to use your use the features from those libraries. You will be able to use all the methods or all the things available in that particular library. So here what you can do is, if you want to check what are the things available in math library, you just have to use this print dir math, and this will give you the output of this, all the methods, everything available in that particular library. So here we have acos, asyn, atan, atan2, ceil, com, copy sign. These are some of the methods available in this particular library that you can use to do your own maths or do things faster. Okay, if you need help with any particular method on that particular you can say library method, all you have to do is use this help keyword and enter the library name dot the method name, and this will give you that particular description that what this particular method does, and that we will be able to understand everything. Now let's understand the concept of errors and exception handling. So what we do is, when we are writing the code and when a user is interacting with your code, you do not want the user to have a bad experience, right? So a user can do or some mistake, or they can create some bug, or they can figure out some bug by entering certain type of input in your code. So in that case, what you want to do is you want to give user a good experience. So in that case, we use the concept of try, except, else, and finally concept. So let's see how we do that. So we use this try keyword here. After that, what we do is we write our code, the general code, whatever the code we have, and we use except if there is any exception occurring in that particular code. If there is any error, we give that user a message, an exception occurred, Okay, else if nothing happens, we give them no, nothing went wrong or whatever output we want to give them. And finally is another keyword that we use. If nothing happens, what you can do is finally is always executed. You can say if whatever thing that is happening, you can always execute finally. Basically finally and else are not used at the same time. Either you can use else or finally, but just try to remember that finally is executed irrespective of whatever thing happens or not. Okay, whether error is occurring or not. So finally is executed all the time. So see here, the try block here is containing the normal code, print hello. If there is any exception, it will print something went wrong. Let's say if you just entered some other wrong value, then it will give the users output that something went wrong. If there's nothing happened, then it will give nothing went wrong. Okay, so see, this code is correct. That means there won't be any error, right? So what it will do is, it will check if there is an error. If the error is there, it will give something went wrong. If there is no error, then it will give this output, nothing went wrong. So the output here is hello, nothing went wrong. Okay, because the code in the try block was correct. That's why. So it's a very simple concept, nothing much to worry about. Okay, and the code in the finally block will always be, printed irrespective of whatever thing is happening. So it's kind of like you can say finally just is there. Like if you want to print something or print a code irrespective of whether error or things are happening or not. Okay, so let's say here's another example. You want to open this file. Okay, you have written this code here to open the file. Now the problem is the second params are missing. That means this code is not correct. What will happen is it will simply create an exception, an error, and you want to handle that particular error. You want to give user some message. Then what it will do, it will go through these things and this will give the user something went wrong when opening the file. Okay, this is actually an nested ones, so ignore this thing for a while. Okay, but just notice that here the code is wrong and the exception occurring here, then this message is being shown to the user. So with the help of try and exception error, what you can do is you can simply tell user that there is some error happening because of the problem. Okay, also there is a concept of raise keyword, like you can simply raise exception. Okay, and you can simply say sorry, only numbers are allowed. So if x equal to input, enter a number. Let's say you want a user to enter a particular number, but if they are entering some string or some text, etc., so in that case you can simply raise exception here and write your message. This will give sorry, only numbers are allowed. So that way you can kind of improve user experience in your code. Although these things won't be used in machine learning thing, at least at the beginner level, then you don't need to worry about these things. But still, if you are planning to work with Python and you want to develop some applications, etc., you need to know these things. Okay, I'm not covering these things in much detail because these things may not be used that much in Python. And also we are not covering the concept of unit testing in our video because unit testing is a different thing, and just try to learn about the unit testing on your own. So unit testing is basically used to find the bugs or some kind of problems in our code. So testing is also a very important thing. Whenever you are going or working as a professional, you need to do testing in your application, your code. So make sure to learn about the testing, because there must be several videos, there are several libraries that you can use to do the testing. Okay, now let's learn about the concept of decorators. Decorators are basically nothing but a function that modifies another function. So everything is object in Python. Everything, I told you that everything is treated as object in Python, even a function. So a function can be used as argument, or it can be treated simply as variable, okay, for another function. So it can be entered as an argument, or it can be treated as, it can be assigned to a simple variable, and it can be like, it can be treated as simply other object in Python. So let's say we have this function here, divide AB, return A, B, okay. Now created another function, smart divide. Here what you're doing is you are simply entering an argument func, okay. Now what you're doing is you are entering this def inner B, you are creating an inner function, print I am going to divide A and B, if B is not equal to 0, print oops I cannot divide, return function, okay, return inner. Now what you're doing is you are modifying, okay, this equivalent is calling divide smart variable. What you're doing is here you are writing in this format @smart divide. That means what you're doing is this simply means you are entering this function, this particular function, as argument here in this particular function. That means this argument here is accepting a function, this function, and this is then modifying it, this is then processing this entire code, and then it is giving you an output. So this is basically what's happening. That means function 2 is taking the previous function, and then it is modifying and giving you the output according to the logic defined in the second function. So, okay. So also these concepts won't be used in machine learning, but still you should know that this is how you can do that. So the concept of generators are nothing, they are simply just another concept. They are not much used, but obviously you should read about the concepts related to generators, but they are not that important for our concept as of now for a beginner level. And if you want to read, I have mentioned everything here, and also there are some resources here. If you want to learn about the generators, you can visit the resources and you can simply look at the concepts, okay. These are not very important concepts, but still like you should know them, and you won't be using them much in your code, but still like you should know, okay, because in machine learning you will be using any concept that is relevant to Python, okay. Also Python has several inbuilt modules, etc, okay. I have mentioned the link to these modules. Just try to visit those modules and try to see what are the inbuilt modules that you can import in your code and work on them. So you simply have to visit and see their functionalities and the things that you can do with the help of the modules. All you have to do is just go through them, read through them and see, because if you have the basic understanding of object methods and data types, etc, you will be able to understand these things, okay, because this is not a really difficult concept, because we'll be using some other modules in future as well. This same basic concepts such as methods, class, function, etc will be used in those libraries as well. So all you have to do is visit these two and try to just go through the modules and see what are the things available there. Also I have mentioned the sources here. From here all you have to do is simply go and practice as many questions as you can, practice and write codes and see what you can do, because then only you will be able to build your foundational concepts and understand Python in a much better manner. Because just speaking from here and you are watching from other side, it won't be any use if you are not practicing the real challenges, because the concepts become more clear only after dealing with the problems at hand. And I understand the this video was particularly fast as compared to the previous ones, simply because this is not actually the complete course for Python. It was basically designed for the purpose of revision while giving you the understanding at the same time without skipping much. And just we wanted to make sure that the beginners who are taking this course they should also get some understanding in case they do not have understanding of the Python. Okay, if you are someone who already knows Python, you don't need to even watch these videos. You simply can jump to the next video. So just for the beginners purpose, we have designed this video so that they can learn the basics maybe and practice a few questions. If they are serious, you just they will be able to learn Python within 2 weeks of the practice from these sources. And also just stay tuned for the next video, and we'll be starting with NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib. After that, we'll be starting with the concepts of algorithms, and we'll be doing that from the next video onwards. So make sure to subscribe and share this video, and join a Discord community to access this notebook there. Also, if you have any question, anything you want to ask to us, if you face any issue anywhere, if you are stuck in this particular notebook, feel free to reach out to us and we'll definitely help you out. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a nice day.